Hey y'all, today we're making sourdough discard cinnamon roll bites. Now look, if that ain't a mouthful of a title for this video. So what you're gonna need, y'all, go ahead and get your oven preheating to 350, and you're gonna need a cup of all-purpose flour, just regular all-purpose flour, and you're gonna need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. You're gonna need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then you're gonna add just a little pinch of salt. You know, not much, just a little tiny bit. I use fine sea salt just because that's what I like. Use whatever kind of salt you have, okay? Then you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of plain white sugar. And then for the liquid part of this, the wet ingredients, we're going to use 3/4 cup of plain non-fat Greek yogurt. Now, I found this recipe over on the old TikTok. And she did not specify that it needed to be the non-fat yogurt, but that's what I usually have because I use it in other recipes. So that's what I used, and it is fantastic. It worked out just fine. So, you know, save you some calories. Get the non-fat. But you do need Greek yogurt. You know, I don't know that regular yogurt would work because it would be a little bit too thin. So now we're going to add in, that's my big old jar of discard. I'm making lots of discard recipes these days. So I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of my discard. Now, if you're watching this video and you don't do sourdough, you can substitute. You can do, instead of the 1/2 cup of discard, add an extra 1/2 cup of the Greek yogurt. Okay, so it doesn't have to have the sourdough discard in it if you don't use sourdough. Okay, just want to put that out there for all of those non-sourdough people. Okay, this is a recipe for all of us. So now we're just going to get this mixed up. Just mix it up real good. You don't need a mixer or anything. You just mix it right there with your little spoon in your bowl. And this dough is not going to come together if you make bread and stuff. This is not going to be the consistency of a bread dough, okay? This is a very, very, very sticky dough. If you've ever done like a 2-ingredient dough that's just the self-rising flour and the Greek yogurt, this is the same texture, okay? So you can probably see how it's super, super sticky. Okay, so put plenty of flour down on your surface, okay? Because this will stick to everything if you don't have some flour down, okay? Now, if you have one of these silicone mats like I do, it rubs right on off the silicone mat, but save yourself a headache, put you a good bit of flour down. And then we're going to, and look, don't worry about me wiping it all off my fingers. I'm about to go in there with both my hands anyway. So my hands are clean, I promise, okay? So then you're going to sprinkle a little bit more flour on top because you're going to need a lot of flour to get this rolled out the way that we need it to. But that's okay, don't worry about it. Just make sure you got plenty of flour on standby, okay? So I'm not really kneading it. It doesn't need to be kneaded like a dough does. I'm just trying to I'm rolling it around until it's not sticky anymore. Okay. And as you move it around, the warmth of your hand and the fact that the inside of it is still sticky. So you may have to add a little more flour as you're doing this. And you see how it's stuck to my hand there? That's okay. It's going to do that. So just do the best you can. See how it kind of tries to stick down to the mat, but you don't want it to stick down there. You want to make sure that it's good and floured up. And your inside, like when I get ready to cut these in a minute, my inside is still a little bit sticky. That's okay. Don't worry about it, okay? Just do the best you can. You can see the consistency of what I'm working with. I'm actually able to pick it up and move it around. It's not sticking down to my mat or anything. So we're going to cut these into pieces because we're making cinnamon roll bites. Sorry, y'all. So I just kind of pressed it out. You don't need to roll it out or nothing. I just kind of pressed it out. Doesn't matter how thick you press it out or anything because we're going to cut these into pieces. However you want to roll this, press it out. If you want to do it in a square, a circle, a rectangle, a triangle, whatever you want to do, you're just going to need to cut this piece into 16 pieces, okay? Because we need 16 little bites, the little balls, right? So I'm using my little dough scraper, bench scraper, whatever. I'm using that. I'm going to cut it right down the middle. You can use a knife if you don't have one of these. Use whatever you have. It's fine. It's not going to matter. So we're going to go ahead and get that cut into 16 equal pieces. Now, obviously, my ends are rounded, so my end pieces are not as big as like my center pieces, but I'll fix that in a minute. I'll just pull a little off the bigger ones to add to the smaller ones, okay? So grease your cast iron skillet really, really well. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, you can do this in a pie pan or whatever you have, okay? Just make sure that you grease it real good. I just like that, you know, the crispiness that you can get from the cast iron skillet when you cook something like this. So, but use whatever you have. So you're just going to roll these into balls and, you know, like I said, try to make your pieces as even as you can. That way they all cook the same, you know. But you can see how the stuff is all over my hands. But it's fine. It rinses off real good. Just even them out the best you can, and then we're just going to set that over to the side for a minute. They don't need to rise or anything, but we have some other steps we need to do, so just put those over to the side. So now we're going to make the cinnamon part of this, like what would be the filling of the cinnamon roll. So what you're going to need is a half a cup of brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of cinnamon and half a cup of melted butter. Now, I was using a 1/4 cup measuring cup, and it did not dawn on me that that's what I was doing. And when I measured this out, I only added 1 scoop, and so I only have half the amount of brown sugar that I needed. And when I got to mixing it up, I was like, man, this is awfully thin. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what have I done? And then I realized, you goober, you didn't put enough brown sugar in here. Look, I caught myself. Caught myself, y'all. There's my extra 1/4 cup right there. So total of 1/2 of a cup of brown sugar. Do as I say, not as I do. Because y'all know if you do as I do, then we'll all be in a mess. So just mix that up until you've got all your brown sugar and your, you know, clumps all gone and all that kind of stuff. Just mix it up until it's pretty smooth. If you have a couple of clumps, who cares? It's just extra sugar. You know what I'm saying? This doesn't have to be perfect. It's not an exact science, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that mixture we just made up and we're going to put it on top of our cinnamon rolls, okay, or our little cinnamon bites. So you can see I still have a few little clumps here and there, but you're just going to put it on there and just spread it out the best you can. And it's all going to kind of sink down and get gooey and all that. It's fine. So spread that on top, and then you're going to add 1/4 cup of warm, heavy cream. I just popped mine in the microwave for, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. Pour that over the top. You're going to put this in the oven, and we're going to bake this for about 30 minutes or until everything is gooey and bubbly and done. And you see that your heavy whipping cream will still be kind of bubbly when you first pull it out right there. That's okay. As you let it sit, it's going to soak into the bottom of those cinnamon rolls. Y'all, I'm telling you. All right, we're going to let that sit over there and soak while we get our glaze put together. So what you're going to need for this, okay, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, and 1/4 cup of milk. However, when I made this, I only used half of it. You'll see how much I end up using, but I had like half of it left over. So what I would suggest is only do half of what this recipe actually calls for. So I saved the other part of it and just, you know, you can use it on, you know, another batch or whatever. But this is definitely way too much. Now, y'all don't normally hear me saying too much sweet is too much, but this was just too much. There was just no way I could have used this amount. So I halved it. I only used half of this. So I'm going to put the full amount down in the description box when I write out the recipe, but I'll just make a note also to just use half. And I didn't sift my powdered sugar, so I had some clumps, so I had to get my mixer out. If you need your mixer, use it. If you don't, it's fine. Now you can see all of our heavy whipping cream has soaked up. You don't see it anymore. And now I started out, I was going to be fancy and just kind of, you know, just lightly kind of glaze, you know, see, I tried to be, look, I was slinging it everywhere. And then I figured out pretty quick, like I had big globs here, there, and everywhere. I was like, forget it. I'm just going to throw it on there and just rub it all on there. It doesn't matter. However you get it on there, it's going to be fantastic. I'm telling you, these are so good, y'all. But y'all see how much icing I have on those, and I still only used half of what I made. So you can use the whole thing if you want to, but you certainly don't need it. So this is them, y'all. Look how nice. They're fluffy in the middle. Taste exactly like a cinnamon roll. There's no rise time. You get the extra benefits of having the sourdough in there. They are delicious. You have to try these. All right, that's all I've got for y'all today. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.